to be reading Klance fanfiction because I just got into Voltron and I'm on like season 3, but I don't know if Space Daddy is still there. I miss Shiro. I miss Shiro a lot. I'm hoping he comes back in season 6, which is going to be airing on the 15th on Netflix. So if you're a Voltron fan, enjoy that. This one is called Bonding Moments, Klance Fanfiction, Heart of a Warrior, by Lena. Thank you, Lena. Okay. What two paladins thought was going to be a normal day training was not coming true. Pitch had been in her room, minding her own business on her laptop, still working on something to find her lost brother, Matt. Then sooner, her father. Hunk was cooking dinner, but he had only just started. Karan and Alora were setting new coordinates, making sure none of the Golero were following them. And the other 3 paladins, Shiro, Lance, and Keith, were in the training room, or would be soon. I'm sorry, I can read in my mind, but the second I start talking, it's like, shut up. That's what probably some of you are saying to me. Okay. Lance had been busy training against the sparring robot, thinking he was doing fine until his eyes wandered off to the right, targeting a certain paladin walking in. It had been Keith, who had walked in as well, noticing Lance sparring. He smiled slightly with a thought in his mind. He had his bayard in his left hand with a plan to train that day as well, but for the moment he wanted to watch Lance, so he clipped his bayard to his pocket, putting a hand on his hip. Thoughts overclouded his mind as Lance continued to spar against the training bot. Thoughts also running through his mind. The only problem was he got kind of nervous now, especially knowing Shiro was watching him at the moment, and he didn't want to mess up now. Shiro's eyes had gone off Keith for a split second as he walked in, then straight back to Lance, mounting him to make sure he didn't screw up something, making him 10 times more nervous. Lance had accidentally made a huge mistake, then ended with him flying against the wall he had lost against the training bot, angering a certain black paladin. Keith's eyes went wide as Shiro almost immediately started telling Lance off. No, Lance, you were supposed to dodge. Think before you do, like Keith always does. Shiro's voice raised, quite mad now that Lance wasn't perfect like Keith. The blue paladin glared down at the ground when he heard his name. Keith. It's always about Keith. It's always how good he always does. Just why? Lance's mind became overwhelmed with anger, tears now pricking at his eyes, threatening to flow out. He threw his bayard down, running out as quickly as possible. Keith saw the Kund boy run out in tears and looked back at Shiro, who sighed with some annoyance. Keith thought about all the times that this has happened, which was quite frequently nowadays. Yes, the final battle was drawing near, but Shiro treated Lance this way. Why? Keith always wondered. Keith knew he would have to talk to Shiro about this later, but for now he felt concerned as he ran after the sobbing boy. You're gonna hurt me. You're gonna fucking hurt me. Space Dad, no! Lance had quickly jogged into his bedroom and slammed the door shut. He curled himself into a little ball, hugging his knees tightly. Keith this, Keith that. It's always about that idiot Keith. Lance sobbed a little, more loud enough for a certain hot-headed to hear. Keith had stopped at Lance's door, now deeply worried for him. Lance, he muttered, looking down. He placed a hand on the blue paladin's door, falling to his knees. Out of all the paladins Shiro has to pick on, it has to be Lance, he thought, though couldn't figure out why. He cared about him now. Keith hates Lance, right? But now he just could get the bit of hatred off for Shiro out of his system. Lance heard the hushed words that Keith said. Lance buried himself deeper into the sheets, hoping that when he came out, he would be lucky and wind up in Nearer Alice. Lance knew that could never happen. He was stuck in space with Keith forever, but he didn't look at that anymore as such a bad thing. Why? Something had stopped Lance's trail of his thought, because the sound that sounded like someone falling to the ground, well, it was true. Lance wiped the tears on his sheet and got up, walking to the door slowly when he heard someone shouting. Never yell at him like that again. He doesn't deserve this to happen to him. He is one of the best paladins, especially better than me, a familiar voice yelled. As Lance's hand moved the doors. As Lance's hand moved the door aside, seeing the black paladin laying on the ground with Keith's sword to his neck. It was Keith who said that. Lance's mind wandered away from the anger a bit. Does Keith really think that? No, maybe, yes he does. Lance tried to think as positive as possible in the situation, but wait, doesn't Keith hate me? He asked himself. He shook his head slightly and walked over to Keith, putting a hand on his shoulder calmly. Keith jumped slightly, moving his sword away from Shiro's neck. Calm down, Keith, it's all right. Lance tried taking the sword away from Keith. Calm down, and let Shiro treat you like this? You don't deserve this kind of treatment. Nobody does. Keith fought his grip tightening on his sword. Keith, Lance mumbled, flabbergasted. Keith did actually care about him. Out of all the paladins in the Castle of Lions, it had been Keith, Mullet Boy, who cared for him. Instead of feeling disgusted, he felt happy, but he couldn't quite figure out why. The Red Paladin sighed, dropping his sword, then walking out of the room. He wanted to end Shiro, but knew he couldn't, at least not in front of Lance. Shiro slowly got up, coughing raspily. Once the Black Paladin stood up, he walked out and glared at Lance, his eyes flashing red. But why? That mystery is for another day. Okay, guys, so that is that fanfiction. I can continue probably reading this. This was only chapter 1. Let's see, what's the next chapter? Okay, guys, this is also this is gonna be a part 2. So let me know if you enjoyed the fanfiction, and thank you for watching. And my soul very much hurts right now. Space Daddy, no Space Dad. That was something though. I can't read for shit.